When it came time to do maintenance on my Bafang motor, I turned to YouTube for disassembly tips and procedures, and I discovered in the long run, after I'd already bought a specialized Bafang tool to remove this spider nut right here, I realized that actually you don't have to remove this in order to get at the gears that are in here. Probably you want to look at re-greasing your nylon gears, or all the metal gears and nylon gears. So it tells you to break the chain, take off the crank arm, and then undo this spider nut right here. This is called the spider, and it attaches the chain ring to the torque sensor of the Bafang motor. And everybody advises you need that tool, and then you need a torque wrench to put it back on again. And actually, you don't need to do all of that. You don't even have to break the chain. So all you have to do is remove the cranks, and then you can remove the chain ring by undoing these 4 bolts here, and then you undo 2 torques that hold this Bafang chain guide into here, and then you can just slip the chain wheel out and then remove it, and then let your chain and the alignment just dangle here. So after you've removed it, this is what you're left with. There's my chain dangling with the guide on the end of it, and as you can see, I didn't have to break it. And here's what it looks like when you've got your spider, which is still attached. The spider nut has not been removed, and you can still get at your final gear assembly in order to do all your greasing procedures. Now, a couple of other tips that may be germane to this discussion, because I saw in another popular disassembly video where the creator actually ends up breaking his gasket in a couple of places and was wondering how that happened.
And I didn't do it.
Well, the gasket either sticks to one side of the engine housing, or it sticks to the other side as well, and when you peel them off and separate them, the gasket can break. And so the trick to doing that and getting the gasket to separate cleanly, these are called spudgers, and what they enable you to do is, when you've got the housing just separated, maybe there's a bit of a millimeter gap, you can get the spudger in there and you can move it around like this and use it to separate the gasket from the metal. Do that on both sides of the gasket, and then when you separate these 2 sides, the gasket will come free and it won't be broken. In my case, when I got into this nylon gear assembly here, it's in the sub housing, I discovered that the gears still seems to be in good shape, and the metal gears are also in pretty good shape. So I am going to re-grease all this with an appropriate fully synthetic grease that contains PTFE. And then what I noticed was on the torque assembly shaft, the bearing felt a bit rough. This is the torque sensor, and here's the bearing that fits onto it, and it's a pretty common motorcycle style bearing, a 6022, and you can buy them on AliExpress for $6, $7, or $8. Don't fall for the ones that are fake or counterfeit Japanese bearings, such as the Koyo or I think it's NLN. Just go for the native Chinese brands that don't try and misrepresent some sort of bearing, and chances are you're going to be better off. This is where it goes, by the way, and when I spun this assembly, it felt a bit rough, so I decided to replace this bearing, and I'm going to leave the other gears alone. And by the way, when it comes to the topic of the torque sensor assembly, you may be wondering if there is another bearing that needs to be replaced in here. However, if you do disassemble it, and all you have to do is take off a circlip and you can pull it out, but there is no bearing in there. And apparently, if you do end up replacing this assembly, which is over $100, that doesn't end the level of the expense that this will incur to you, because then you need to recalibrate your motor with the Besst programming tool. And because this is a CAN bus assembly, you have to use that to recalibrate, and that's going to run you about $140. And most of the sellers on those tools will give you access via their accounts so that you can get in, because that's a proprietary software interface through Bafang.